Can you hear me, Paul?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
I have pushed this up into a corner.
It's just you and I.
It looks like it's just you and I. It was just me for a minute. Actually, for a couple minutes, I was looking around to see if I had the right link. And I was notified that, oh, there we go. I was notified that we're being recorded. There's Frank.
Hi, Frank. Looks like he's sleeping.
And here's Frank.
Recording in progress.
Well, welcome to the meeting, Bill.
Everybody beat me to it. Okay, I see some familiar faces in there. Let's see who else joins us. I'm always looking off to the side because my laptop slid off the little stand I had on, smashed the screen. So I had to get another screen that's not right above where the laptop is. So that's why I look more. Oh, and I see Norb is coming in there. There's Norb.
Hi.
Hey,
And
Can you
our,
hear me?
be recorded.
good to hear from you and see you again.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Making a note of who's here.
Okay, can you see me?
Yep, I can
Oh,
see
okay.
okay.
Yep.
Everything's going
Can you
good.
see us?
But he has a problem with the vision. So far, Norb, we've got Paul Banner, Pete Garthe, Frank Marfia, Frank Unger, Dick Galant, Dave Sipka. Let's see who else gets in here.
Great.
Hey,
He gave you credit. You weren't paying attention.
Oh, before we get started, I have a quick question. It seems to me I saw both September 7th and September 10th in your emails for the party.
Yeah, that was my bad. It's September 10th, right, Pete?
I think so.
Okay, let's make sure of that. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I goofed up there. I read those things several times, and I had so many dates in there that
I know,
Missed out
it's
on
easy
that
to
one.
do.
and Tom.
I scheduled a meeting one time at, it was supposed to be at 2:00 and I put 1 on the schedule. And they wrote back and said, "You really want to meet at 1?" Well, actually, as it turns out, we did. We started meeting at 1 from then on.
Okay, Ed Swart has joined us. Tom Dalton is there.
Oh, good.
Who else do we have coming in here? Let's see. Tom Dalton. I'm going over my list of people. That's Frank Stash is somewhere out of there in the wings.
Just to make sure, you're sending this invitation to everybody on your list, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
good.
Right. Yeah. There was a little confusion on the last one that I set out because it seemed to be a repeat of the other one, but it was just another attempt to get people aware of the
Yeah. Okay.
June 7th. And Paul Greenwald has joined us.
Okay, good.
Bill, I do know that I spoke with Rick O'Neill from my class that
Oh, yes.
talked about earlier, and he and I went through some of the lists that we have, and not everybody that even we had at the meeting at the reunion a couple of years ago were on the list. And so we're adding to it, and we'll be doing some more things probably with a meeting with our class even before the next one with the larger group.
Right, that's good. Let's see, I'm counting them up. 1, 2, 4, 4 is 8. We got 11 people there so far.
How many people are on the list?
Well, here comes. It says Albert's iPad, and I think that means Al Wahmhoff. On the list itself, the list that we've been working with for the last couple of years, there's about 155 names. So that gives you an idea.
That's great. Just to remind you, you've added a lot since I turned them over to you, because I think I had only 125.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I remember that Rick O'Neill was one of the names that Norb, you didn't have on the list with an email address on it, but we had him attending the actual reunion, as I recall it.
Right.
So there were some people that attended that we didn't have any contact information on at all.
Rick was there, and he's the one that our class kind of delegated. I think we had about a dozen of us there.
Oh,
And-
really?
Yeah, and we delegated it to Rick to pull together a list, and he has that list. So we will be,
Okay.
he and I are going to follow up on that.
Yeah, if it's okay with you guys, I mean, I'd like to add them all to our list so that we don't have to try and figure out who's not, hasn't been contacted and who has. So if you can get that over to me, I'd be more than happy to add them onto the general list.
We will do that.
Ed,
Yeah,
where
that'd be great.
is, Ed, this is sticking along. Where is Rick O'Neill? Where does he live?
Rick is in Ann Arbor, Dick.
Yeah, I just wondered, I could connect with him.
Yeah, he lives west of town, not far. He was a school principal
Yeah.
in Ann Arbor
Right.
Public Schools.
Right.
He's now
Thank you.
retired.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Now, is Rick O'Neill related to Mike O'Neill from Cadillac?
I don't think so.
Okay,
He's from Grand Rapids.
okay.
His mother and my mother knew each other fairly well. We came from the same parish in Grand Rapids, St. Thomas. So,
Okay. Oh, just another, Bill, another technicality just to be aware of. When you send out notices, you might want to add on their Eastern time, because some of the people don't
right.
live in Eastern time zone.
Yeah, I discovered from several people who live out in California that I
Right,
guess they can't figure it out, but
right.
yeah.
Well, no, but you don't even say it's Eastern. If you
Right,
say it's
right.
Eastern, then- I have experience of that because I've had a few Zoom meetings with people from all over the country. So we had to make sure we had the time zone in there.
All right, I'll tell you what, why don't we get started with round one, which was to go through the list alphabetically, just identify yourself, the class that you were in, or the years attended, and then where you are today, just for the benefit of people who may not be familiar with you. So we'll start off alphabetically. At the top of the list is Paul Banner.
Well, Paul Banner, I graduated from St. Joe's in 1966. I am in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I'll pass it on to the next person.
Which would be Norb Bufka.
That's what I thought. I graduated in 61 and I live in Midland. Of course, I'm retired. We're all retired probably. but I'm the author of the book about St. Joe's, in case anybody hasn't seen that yet. And I live in Midland. Yeah, okay, that's enough. Thanks.
Okay, next, Tom Dalton.
Hi, I attended 5960, all of 1 year. I live in Grand Rapids and I'm about a 10-minute walk away from the former seminary grounds.
Okay, next on my list is Pete Garthe. How's my alphabet going?
You're off.
Oh,
Dick
Galant.
Galant.
Ah, Dick Galant. We'll go with Dick Galant first. Oh, wait a second. That's right. Dick Galant.
Well, I just want, I'm Dick Galant, and I went and I graduated in 65, went through the whole course of 6 years. Live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I do want to salute Paul Banner because in this forum, he's our class beadle and was a significant position since he had to tell the instructor, whoever that was, that all of us were present and accounted for. So Paul, you do a good job.
I don't remember ever doing that.
You probably weren't the first one in your class, but that's a old like prep school type position. It was called the class beadle. So anyways, for what it's worth, welcome all.
Great. And Dan Galant is your brother?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
He lives in he lives right by you, Commerce Township. And he was, I'm not sure the exact year, somewhere around 71. He went 4 years and left and went to Michigan State. He was a General Motors labor lawyer and now he's retired, so.
Okay, over to Pete Garthe.
Yeah, class of 66, of course. Live here in Byron Center. Semi-retired attorney.
All right, on to Paul Greenwald.
High school class of 68. I was at St. Joe's from September 64 through December 69. So I was in the first group at Christopher House. But finished up college at Aquinas and couldn't find a teaching job. So plan B is I went to law school. And practiced law here in Grand Rapids for 40 years and am retired.
Okay, on to, let's see if I got my alphabet here. Frank Marfia.
Hello, everyone. I can't get my sound to be louder. Can you all hear me?
Yes, you're
Okay.
great.
Class of 66. I went on, and so that's 6 years from 60 to 66. I spent the next 2 years in San Antonio, Texas with Jim Hannock. We both got degrees in philosophy and then left the seminary at that time. My longest work career was 35 years with the federal government, 24 of those with the Head Start program. I live in Chicago now and lived there for 45 years, but I'm in northern Wisconsin at my summer home. I have a home in the town of Land of Lakes. It's right on the UP border. It's pretty hot here. So when we built this house 7 years ago, we decided not to go with central air. The last couple of days, we're regretting that decision.
Frank, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Somebody in our group sent me an email message when we were looking at different places that we might host maybe an indoor gathering for a reunion. And he mentioned a priest, and I looked him up, and I can't remember his name, but right now. But I looked at his bio on the diocese website, and it turns out, and I found some other articles about it, turns out that he looks like he was at the seminary sometime in the 50s and then went on to San Antonio. And I thought that you guys were the first ones who went down to Texas, but it looks like there were previous classes that were down there.
Well, when Jim Hannick and I went, we were the first two from Grand Rapids Diocese. But
Oh.
we actually rode down with two seminarians who were 1 year ahead of us from the Saginaw Diocese.
Oh, okay, all right.
So there is a history of Michigan seminarians going to Assumption Seminary and attending college at St. Mary's University. But
Okay.
honestly, I don't remember their names. So,
Actually, I want to add to that. Ron Schneider from our class went to San Antonio.
oh, he did. Okay, see, so
Yeah.
we went the
Class
first
of
then.
64.
Can you
No,
tell,
wait, that was just for theology, not philosophy.
Well, there's the Assumption Seminary only had seminarians from high school and college. I don't know where San Antonio's theology students were living.
Okay, so
Honestly, I
they're
don't know
a
where.
different place maybe. Okay.
They weren't in our seminary. But all of our classes were at St. Mary's University. That's where my degree is from. It's a Marist college and a pretty big school now.
Bill, I'm just wondering, the priest you're talking about, could it be Pedro Garcia?
Doesn't ring a bell. I guess of the 12 of us here, does anybody recall sending me a message about an alternative site to have an indoor meeting if we had to? Maybe I'm
Not responsible.
Are you talking about reunion?
Right, exactly, yeah.
Well, I'm sure, I'm not positive, but I'm sure we could use the same place we did in 2018. St. Peter and Paul and Grand Rapids.
Yeah, I was just trying to track down my info on this this priest who served apparently in the diocese, Grand Rapids Diocese, for many, many years and was specifically sent to Texas because of the language issue. And so now, unfortunately, I can't find the information on who that was. But okay, let's see. I've got next on my list Ed Swart. Oh, did I get? Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, I did not graduate. I finished high school in '66 when most of you guys finished up sixth year. My brother was in your class. I am living in Holland right now, and I am a mostly retired psychologist. And I think I mentioned Bob's passing to you guys at the last meeting.
Right. Okay, Frank Unger, the other half of the class of '65.
About Dave Sipka.
Oh, okay. Somebody's got back up to Dave Sipka.
That's fine. Dave Sipka. I currently live in Montague. I graduated from St. Joe's in '70, went to 2 years at Christopher House and then the University of Waterloo in Kitchener for philosophy. Came back to Aquinas, picked up an education degree, went on, became Catholic school principal for about 20 years, and then went to public schools, assistant superintendent in Coopersville, superintendent of Montague area public schools, and then superintendent of Muskegon area intermediate school district. So yeah, retired, doing an occasional odd job for the diocese and enjoying life.
Did you, and when you were in Coopersville, did you initiate the Del Shannon Scholarship for Waterloo University?
No, we did. We didn't. No. Yeah, Del Shannon was a pretty popular guy there. Turns out he wasn't such a good student, though. Del Shannon was not his real name.
No.
Charlie something or other. A bit of a troublemaker before my time.
He ran away then afterwards, right?
He did.
No, when you mentioned going on to the major seminary in where'd you say you went to? In
Right, University of Waterloo. I was actually studying for the Lansing Diocese, but Grand Rapids Diocese was sending guys to, at the time, Waterloo in Ontario, and then St. Mary's in Baltimore. So
That's interesting. The more we talk, I find out about. I just always assumed that Cincinnati and Baltimore were the only places that people went on to the at least the philosophy section. And then when
Yeah.
Frank Marfia and Jim Hannick, I wasn't aware that they went to San Antonio. So it's been a real learning experience for me as well.
Bill,
Okay.
didn't one of our class go to Milwaukee? Didn't one of our classmates end up in some seminary in Milwaukee? And I can't remember.
Dave Hanley went to St. Francis.
Yeah. Who was that?
Dave Hanley?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now we're on to Frank Unger, correct?
Yes. With Dick Galant, we entered in St. Joe's in 1959 and we graduated in 65. We went to St. Mary's. I got the degree there, but I left at that time. I currently live just south of Kalamazoo.
Let's
And,
say Portage, gee whiz.
pardon?
Are you in Portage?
Actually, I'm a little bit south of that, even a little tiny town called Vicksburg, but most people recognize the name Kalamazoo a lot better. So I just.
They will recognize Vicksburg with time. It's a growing little bird.
It is. It is. And it's a neat little town, So anyway, I left when I got my philosophy degree. And the one thing I've noticed when I hear everybody talk about the careers they're followed, I'm one of the very few that basically got involved in data processing and accounting, and then ended up being a manufacturing accountant and a controller in business. So I just basically took a different route than most people who went to the seminary actually did.
Well, just so you don't feel alone, a couple guys in my class did that also. It was in IT, and Clark Robert became an accountant.
Frank and Dick Galant, wasn't Larry Christensen in your class?
Yes,
And did he graduate in the class of 65?
yes, he went on to Cincinnati. I just learned through Tom, who did a nice job, that it was about a year ago, Tom, Larry passed away. He was in Atlanta. I kind of knew that. Once we graduated, I never saw him again. But he died there. I don't know what the cause is. However, he was recognized by the state of Georgia for his legal work in defending, I think, indigenous people, and was seemingly in his legal time, especially in Atlanta, committed to that kind of specialty in law. So he passed, Frank, what did I say? I think it was, Tom, do you remember, within the last year or something like that?
I don't know, not more than 2 years.
Yeah, it was, and Tom was really gracious because I had no idea, really didn't know what had happened. And he gave me a call or something, and I told him that, yeah, and he said, okay. And the next thing I knew, he gave me an email, and I discovered that. So I really appreciated that. Can I make a little side to here thing real quick? It involves Frank Unger and myself. I don't know for all of you, but when he and I were thinking of going to the seminary, they used to have a test that you had to take. And they took it in the study hall, and we were like in the last rows. And we were, I think both of us were really scared because we didn't know what the heck was going on and anything. But Frank didn't quite understand the direction on something. I don't know if you remember this, Frank, but I distinctly remember that. And I was so darn scared to turn around and just, tell him or give, whatever the directions were. And for this day, he was actually the first person that I knew in the class when I went to St. Joe's. And that's how I remember meeting him. So we've had a link or a bond ever since that time.
Yeah.
During the other point was that during the time that after I left, went to St. Mary's also, and then I left a year, and then Frank went one more year. Somehow we did connect, and it ended up that Frank went into the Army. And I can't remember if I had been in the Army yet or not, but Frank ended up in Korea. And he and I would exchange letters every once in a while. And there was one time I do remember when his wife was alive then, and he was in right around Kalamazoo. I can't remember exactly where it was. Anyways, I remember then connecting with him. But he was the only person in my class, and Larry Christensen had been, he lasted, I'll put it that way, a little gross, but he lasted. Larry, Frank, and myself were the only three that completed that class. They started with 66. And part of it was, I think, that really hurt the class, is that 9 of our classmates after the first year went to Saginaw because they had started a new seminary there. And they kind of, I think, took out the core of the class in the sense that I could say they were definitely the leaders, and they were all very bright people. And I don't know. The one thing though that I can tell you, an interesting story regarding that class, is that there was next to me in the alphabetical order, and in our first year where we slept, there was a John Dubord who left with that group, and he eventually was ordained a priest. And I was born in Mount Pleasant, and I happened to be there. And it was at the time that John was the assistant pastor at Mount Pleasant, and I hadn't seen him or anything. So I decided that I would go to the rectory and see if I could go see him. And it turned out that I got this strange look from this receptionist, and everything kind of got quiet. And I waited for a little bit, and then all of a sudden she came out and she said, "The pastor will see you." And so I went in, and I didn't know what to expect, and I hardly sat down, and he just barely said, "Well, John left the priesthood." And I was like, "Oh, okay, see you later." But I mean, it was kind of strange how it was handled and that, and I felt like I was a CIA agent or something, that I was probing or something. It was kind of like, why are you asking? But I just share that with you as just kind of the encounters, and I appreciate all the things that all of you have done, and Bill's leadership, and Norb too, to just connect with us. I always felt we were kind of an orphan class since we were so small, and there was never any real connections among us throughout the time. And you're talking like 50 years of time that went by. So anyways, thanks for bearing with me on all that.
I have a couple of questions and a comment. Actually, I recall looking back through the website with the class pictures, and it seemed that I recall another year, several years before your group, that there were only like 4 or 5 graduates. I never had a chance to explore that further. I don't know if that rings a bell with anybody, but I always thought that was kind of an interesting thing that might be worth looking into if any of those guys are still around. The other thing that you brought up was taking a test. And I can't remember our class having any kind of test. They just, does that ring a bell with any of the class of 66?
Raise your hand if you remember it.
I can, I'd like to respond to that. My understanding was in 1956 was the first year that they introduced an entrance exam. And I came that year, I was 10th grade. I didn't go in 9th grade. And Father told me came up to Cadillac to administer the test because there were 4 or 5 of us from the North Country that were entering. And I obviously passed it. That's the only thing I remember about it though.
Well, when I took the test in 64, it was basically the same as kind of an Iowa basics test. Multiple choice, fill in the circles, I remember.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't like
I don't even remember that.
seminary specific that I could tell. They just wanted to see if you were a decent student and could
Right.
probably pass, function in the seminary.
But it was taken at the seminary before.
Yeah, it was a Saturday afternoon. I really wasn't planning on going to the seminary or taking a test, but I remember one Friday afternoon at Blessed Sacrament, sitting there in the 8th grade classroom, and the guys were getting up one at a time and going out of the classroom and then coming back and tapping the next guy on the shoulder and telling them to go out. We were always in so much trouble. I figured they were going to throw us out or something. Finally came my turn, and the guy in front of me comes back and says, Father LeBlanc is in the school office. He wants to talk to you.
Uh-oh.
Didn't tell me why. So I walked down there in absolute terror. I get down there, and Father LeBlanc is sitting at the desk, and he says, well, way back, probably when I was in the 3rd grade, Father Corcoran had made a note that Paul Greenwald might want to go to the seminary. And so Father LeBlanc announced to me that, there's 2 weeks from now on Saturday, they're having an entrance exam at the seminary. And I already signed you up for it because Father Corcoran left me a note saying you wanted to go to the seminary. So that's how I wound up at St. Joe's.
All right, why don't we go on to Al Wahmhoff, and then we'll skip back alphabetically to Dave Hooper. Dave, we're just kind of real brief introduction, when you went, what class you were in, and where are you living these days? So let's go over to Al first.
Okay, I'm another one of those fellows from the class of 66. Went on to Baltimore, graduated there in 68. Went to St. John's Provincial there in Plymouth, Michigan, through 3 years of theology with Drew Passing. Went into construction that I'd been doing summers along the way anyway, after doing a little bit of topological survey from Martin, Michigan down to Three Rivers one summer, and then on to building nuclear power plants the next summers in Western Michigan. And from there on to construction survey work the rest of my life until I retired all over the Midwest. But today I'm in Iowa, Bettendorf, Iowa. That's just across the Mississippi, only a couple hundred plus miles from you. But by Friday, I will be in New Buffalo, Michigan, in a home that's 2 blocks into Michigan from Indiana and less than a mile from Lake Michigan.
All right, let's go back to Dave Hooper for his rundown. You got to turn your mic on.
Unmute down here. How's that?
Okay, right, yeah.
Okay. I was in the class of 64. Ordinarily, I would have gone to, I was from Flint, Michigan. So ordinarily would have gone to Sacred Heart in Detroit. But the priest who invited me into the seminary was Father Jim Sullivan, later became auxiliary
Yeah.
Lansing, and then Bishop of Fargo, North Dakota. So he was a graduate of St. Joe's. He thought St. Joe's was a better place for me. So if it weren't for him, I would never have known any of you guys. So I blame him, whichever you want to do. The surviving members of my class were people like Terry Stewart, Don Heidens, Mike Hazard, Chuck Fisher, couple others, I think, but about 6 or maybe 8 of the however many of us started were eventually ordained. I was just thinking, I'll tell the story briefly of an incident that happened to Don Heidens and I in the last few months of our final year, our 6th year. At that time, some of you would remember, I think it was the Father Conklin, Hugh Michael Conklin, the radio priest.
You Michael Ban?
You, Michael Ban.
You Michael Ban?
Oh,
He had a Sunday mass on radio or TV, whichever it was.
TV.
A couple of us would go to serve each week. And Don and I were assigned that week. And the celebrant was a priest from Saginaw, from the seminary, a seminary professor from the Saginaw Seminary. And we served and everything went along well. And after he asked us if we'd like to go out to lunch with him, and then he'd take us back to the seminary. We said, well, we got to get permission, of course. So let's try to give a call to the rector. So, I mean, we were only 20 at that point. We couldn't make that kind of a decision to go out to lunch. We just celebrated all by ourselves. So we called and got no answer. And then he tried to call and got no answer. And he said, it'll be okay. Why don't you guys let's just go. He said, I'll talk to you when we get back. So we went out. We had a really nice lunch, nice visit. He, of course, knew the guys that had started from Saginaw at those, John Sarge, Terry Trojan.
Right, those are in our class.
Can't remember the names of all of them, but there were 5. You're right.
Mike Brenner.
Right. Yep. So he told us how they were doing, and we had a nice lunch, and he dropped us off in the back. And as far as, and he went in, told Monsignor Morin what had happened. Everything seemed fine. He left. 2 days later, Don and I were called into the rector's office. He said, you two have had really good careers here, but I am very disappointed in the impression of our seminary that you must have left upon that priest from Saginaw. You went with him without permission to lunch and wasn't notified at all. And I told him my little tale of woe about trying to get in touch with him, and that didn't impress him at all. And he said, well, this will be brought up at the faculty meeting.
Jeez.
And we'll have to decide what the consequences of this will be. And he had a tone of voice like, we don't know if we're going to graduate you or not, you know. Heck with your 5.5 years before. This is what really shows us what you're made of. We don't know. We want to put our stamp of approval on you, you know. So, well, he didn't throw us out. We both got not only out of St. Joe's, but ordained as well. But remember the old marking system of
Right. Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
1, 2,
Yep.
Yeah.
we each got 2 marks.
Checks and marks.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Gee.
But
Yep, sure. thrown out for that.
Right next to the front door.
So I've never forgotten that one. Don't hold it against them, but that's the way it was then, way back then. And that would have been, yeah, 64, 64.
Do you remember what year that was?
64.
63 or 64. It was our 6th year, with the class of 58.
Wow, that late.
64, June of 64.
Yeah, okay.
What was the reason, Dave? I mean, you didn't get permission?
But to be absent for a meal, you needed express permission from the rector or a faculty member.
I don't know that.
Well, it's bigger than that, Dave. You had to have permission to be out of the seminary at all. Away from the seminary grounds. You had permission to go to be served at the mass, and that was it.
That's it. You're right. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm not saying I should maybe have gotten thrown out. It would have made my life a whole lot simpler. But no.
They were so strict about that. My grandmother died, and the funeral was on Saturday. So I was allowed to go to my grandmother's funeral, but I was not allowed to go to the luncheon after my grandmother's funeral. My dad had to bring me back to St. Joe's before he could go to the luncheon for my grandmother.
I had 2 grandparents die during the 6 years that I was there. Both were up in the Upper Peninsula. I was not allowed to go to the funeral of either one of them.
Okay, on to me, I guess, unless I missed somebody in the rundown. Pete, you're the official monitor of the alphabet here. Okay, I was class of 1966. I was there from the beginning, and what was that? Would have been 1960 through September of 60 through June of 66. And I'm now living in West Bloomfield, Michigan, which is a northwest of the city of Detroit. Been living here for probably 35 years. That's when we bought this condo. It's the longest stay in my career of living anyplace. Just a couple of things in here. I wrote down Jim Blanchard. Oh, yes. Jim and the archivist from the diocese sent over a couple of pictures from the class, as far as anybody could narrow it down. And I think it was Terry Stewart that said I think they were in the class of 55 or 56. Anyway, I have put it on the website, and I'm going to put a little note on the homepage, just showing that we've added that picture in there. Somebody remembered, I think it was there a Father Lefebvre? Does that ring up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think somebody recognized his picture in this, and that's how we narrowed down what class it was. Also, Terry Stewart sent me a picture of his meeting with Bishop Rose in the last week or so. He noted that they are now allowing outside meetings or gatherings. So he and Bishop Rose met outside for a little while. Bishop Rose, as Terry Stewart mentioned, is looking a little increasingly frail. Of course, he's 91. I think he just celebrated his 91st birthday a little while ago. So anyway, that's just a couple of notes in there. Now, why don't we go back through to the September 10th meeting and see where things stand? Let's see. Pete, you've been my main contact in there. You and Frank, I think, have been among the 4 people who sort of got appointed to the committee. It was originally Frank's idea to get this whole thing going. So whichever one of you wants to take it up, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, we talked about meeting outdoors near the seminary, and so Garfield Park was suggested, and I went over there and checked it out. And they do have a couple of picnic, I don't know what I forget what they call them, canopies or whatever.
It'd be a pavilion, a small pavilion.
Shelter pavilions or whatever.
Yeah.
That are right next to each other, and there's a restroom. I should have gone in and checked the restroom, but
I did.
Oh, did you? Is it usable?
Probably.
Okay. Anyway, those two pavilions are next to each other. They each hold 4 picnic tables, big picnic tables. So you can probably put at least 6 in the picnic table. So, you know, that's room for, what is that, 48? 4 times 24 plus 24 is 48. Yeah. So, you know, that site is available. And the question is how many people, how much room do we need? And it looks like we're not even going to get anywhere near 48. So, and that can be reserved with the city of Grand Rapids. I haven't reserved it yet. I guess I feel I wanted to talk to you guys first. I doubt there's going to be anybody there on a Friday afternoon in September. Probably don't even have to reserve it, but we can. And we can get a beer license for $35 or something, alcohol license, so we can drink there if we want to. And then researching the food truck idea. Several of you, I know I sent out the list about several, and the Patty Matters was one of the food trucks, and I got in contact with them and emailed them, and they said they have a minimum of 40 people they would have to have attend. So I thought they would, then they didn't really commit to it. So I followed up a couple of weeks later and said, would they be willing to come on that day and take care of us? And they said they could not do that. And they didn't say why. So again, looking at the numbers, I'm sure this isn't a final list, but there was only 23 people on this list that Bill sent out this past week. So
if you hang on for just a second, let me try and show the list to those people who haven't seen that. Now, let's see, somewhere on here, there's a, I'm going to switch over. I don't think that you guys will be able to see this, but let me just do a quick check.
You can do a share your screen right at the middle of the icons. It's either on your computer, it'll be across the bottom if you move your mouse.
All right. I got
in the
it.
middle, share screen.
Yeah, I don't see that. Oh, there it is. There it is right there. Okay. There it is. Okay. Can you guys see that list?
No, you gotta pull it up on your computer first and then share it.
All right.
These younger guys are so smart.
Okay, it says share. How about now? Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so there's in the attending column are those that said, yeah, they're coming, and the number of people that they indicated. And then, of course, we heard from a couple of folks that just couldn't do it. And then I listed, one option was, are you interested but not sure? And so they show up. Some people indicated that if they could make it, there would be like 2 people with them. But at this point, they weren't able to commit to it.
I see nobody from my class on there, and I know several, whoops, I'm sorry, Carl Octopinti is on there. But he's the only one I see from my class, and I know there were several who were thinking of coming.
Okay.
So I know the list is bigger than that. I notice I'm not on there. So yes, we will have more.
Does Carl live in Muskegon?
I'm sorry?
Does Carl live in Muskegon?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, he lives in Twin Lake, north of Muskegon.
Okay. We grew up right by him.
Yes.
Eddie Henkiewicz, is he He's a priest, isn't he?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
He's like the, what do you call it? The priest lawyer or whatever the law. He grew up on Houseman Field, right in back of it, off of Diamond Street.
Yeah. He is retired from that position in the diocese. He's,
Okay.
Yeah.
he is pastor of St. Isidore on the
Oh, okay.
northeast
So that
side.
was right up the street for where he grew up.
Yeah.
so at any rate, that's, I mean, I'll add Paul to the list, or Paul Greenwald to the list.
Yeah, put me there too. I didn't respond. I'll be there.
Okay,
This is Ed Swart, put me on with my wife. I know Rick O'Neill's planning on being there. I know there are several others that have talked about it.
right, okay, so that, if we add even, let's see, right now, if we had like 6 more in the, for sure coming, that would put us up like 30. There, I'm assuming there'll be more. I think it's going to take some tracking down of people sort of on an individual basis, like people like Jerry Stein, who's been hasn't been attending some of the Zoom sessions, but I mean, he seems like he would be Neil Mullally, maybe a contact from Pete Garthe might get a response from him. I'm just thinking off the top of my head in there. I think some of these are going to be almost like a one-on-one contact. I'm thinking, Tom Budzinski, Tom Zabowski, Zibby. They have indicated an interest in what's been going on, but haven't participated in the sessions. So we could hit a maybe 35 in there. I'm guessing. That's just off the top of my head.
I'd like to jump in if I may.
Yeah.
I led the seminary reunion in 2018, and with Dennis Morrow, I really want to give him 100% credit for the success of that. But I learned a lot from him. I would say more than half the people registered within the last month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, because people don't want to, some people don't want to make a decision ahead of time. I didn't send you my name, partly because it was just in the talking stage. So I wasn't sure that I would be interested. Plus, I think I noticed that you don't have anybody older than your class on there, do you? That's attending? For example, from my class or from older, like Terry Stewart, was he interested? So I wonder if you might want to put a plug in somehow to get some of the older guys to come to this. And I will certainly do that with my class. Because that was my experience in 2018 as well. A lot of people contacted me. Is anybody coming from my class? The other thing that I would suggest or urge to, is there going to be a theme? Is it just going to be a picnic at the park? Will there be an opportunity for some kind of common sharing? Something, in other words, what I'm trying to get at is something that would attract people. I want to be there. In other words, it's not just a picnic at Garfield Park.
Right.
What's the reason? So I just want to throw that out to inspire you and encourage you and me. Because I was talking to my wife about it, and yeah, she would have to drive me over, of course, because those of you who don't know, I can't drive anymore. So there's 2 more people there. It's quite likely that would come. But again, I would be more interested if somebody in my class or class next to me was going to be there.
Yeah, Jerry Willing said he was coming.
Oh, really? Okay.
Here's my alphabetizing in there. I had the last name in the wrong spot. So,
okay.
So let's see. Yeah, class of 61 is as far back as they go. And that kind of brings up another question. Some of the, as I recall, Norb, some of the people who were on the faculty at the seminary were also there at that reunion, and I don't know exactly how all that came about. Some of the faculty don't show up on the official directory. We never had a way of contacting them. I mean, I could track them down on the art or the diocese website and see what shows up in there. But that was another kind of missing piece of the puzzle in terms of how many people might expect or plan for.
Yeah, I don't
Got any
know.
ideas?
I don't know how to respond to that because I do remember asking, I can't think of his name right now, but Vanovich, Father Vanovich. I personally asked him.
Oh, Tony Binovich.
Pardon me?
Banovich.
Tony Binovich.
But now, okay, but now, thank you.
Yep.
And I personally asked him because I knew he was on faculty, but I can't remember anybody else that was on faculty that was there or that we invited.
Not down here.
So I think they came because they got the general invitation. And they should be on the list if they registered.
I response to that is I was looking at some things in Father Ancona. You mentioned him. Now, apparently he's retired, but he is somewhere in Grand Rapids and he does things like seminars or something on retirement. And I was thinking that some of you have mentioned, I think Paul Banner was talking about him, but they could be, you know, he could be invited. A thought I had is a couple thoughts. One was that would it be possible to have a mass at the Cintas Center where St. Joe's is and ask if they would name the chapel, I don't know how many it could contain, St. Joe's Chapel, for two reasons. One, in memory of what the building was. Maybe they have a name, I don't know. The other one is that this is the year of St. Joseph. And that we would give a donation as a group, you know, in memory and have that a special mass. And I thought, well, maybe Father Ancona or somebody like that could celebrate the mass. And it would be, someone mentioned as a reason for coming. I mean, you'd have the mass and then you'd have the, I'll quote the word celebration after that.
Right.
I'm going to jump in, guys, just because I have to go. I'm going to say farewell. Bill, I will follow up, though, with my classmates, so you'll get more information.
Great.
Okay? All right, good to see y'all. Take care.
Ed,
Bye-bye.
Bye.
the other thought I had was we're kind of hitting it, but not quite. I thought, well, maybe like, okay, I'm in Ann Arbor, right? And ask people that maybe somebody else that is in Ann Arbor that is part of this group in a sense would come with. In other words, don't drive alone, pick somebody up and you both drive in. I mean, it's a, you know, for me, it's about 2 hours or 2 hours and 10 minutes to get there. And, you know, it's a long day. We're getting older and different things like that, you know, just sharing the driving, somebody just, you know, being with, and you can jaw along, the time passes quicker. But I just thought, you know, getting more people there would be, you know, by sharing, that could happen. It's just an idea. Two would be, one is, well, three, Father Ancona is a possibility. And ask them maybe he'd celebrate a mass if you buy into it, and see if we could celebrate at the chapel and kind of dedicate it and give a gift.
Yeah, that's a good thing, Dick. And that reminds me, I wanted to bring up tonight too.
Go ahead. I'm done. So go ahead.
Last year we started a fund to do exactly that. And we're not anywhere near the $5,000, are we, Bill? Do you have any idea?
No, I haven't gotten any updates from, but yeah, we, and again, to the question of the chapel, it's feasible, I suppose. Somebody would have to contact the Samaritas folks there to see whether that is even something that they would be open to or in the chapel. I like the idea. It sounds like a really cool idea. I'm just not sure whether from the Samaritas point of view, whether they have even done that.
Right.
And I don't think we have any idea of how they've remodeled the chapel.
Well, that's the other question. Is it still a chapel?
No, it's
No.
it's a community meeting room. That's all. A lot of the architecture on the inside of it is still there.
Okay.
And I think, as I recall it, it might be the Grand Rapids Community Foundation made a large gift to Samaritas, and I think they named the chapel in recognition of that gift.
Okay.
I couldn't swear to it, but
Right.
that was my thinking in that regard. It would be cool. But again, somebody would need to get in touch with them and, take up the ball and see whether the other thought, and this might be where whoever sent me that message about a parish nearby, and again, I don't recall who it was, maybe having a mass nearby, real close by, and then going on to a picnic afterwards, something to consider. I don't know what is involved. I can't think of what might be involved in the logistics of the whole
Well, that
thing.
would be one thing that, since it's September 10th, school's in session, keep that in mind.
Mm.
But St. Francis is close. Tom can attest to that. I thought about that. Also, I thought about St. Paul's on Burton Street or Immaculate Heart of Mary as another possibility. And what I was thinking that Father Ancona, I think, is where he's at, is close to at St. Paul's.
It's 8 o'clock.
Sorry, he's close to that church. He's not the pastor. I don't know who the pastor is. I mean, I saw the name, but I don't know who it is. And St. Francis is, it's kind of, it has two names. I'm trying to think. It has a Hispanic name.
Shrine of St. Francis Xavier and Our Lady of Guadalupe.
That's right. Thanks.
It's
Yeah.
a Hispanic parish now. They just got a new pastor
Yeah.
or a new canonical administrator who is Spanish speaking.
Right.
As was the pastor who just got transferred.
Okay. Yeah, I knew it was. Thanks a lot. And then the other one I thought it was Immaculate Heart. That's they aren't diocesan priests there. I can't remember what priest.
No, they are now. It is a
They are now.
parish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Those are just thoughts because they were close to Garfield Park and that I'm aware of. I mean, I don't frequent Grand Rapids that much, but
Well, here's another idea. Why not have Terry Stewart or Gus Ancona or another retired priest say mass at Garfield Park?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like the idea of an outdoor mass if the weather permits.
Exactly. You do like it or not?
I do.
Yeah, I do too. And that would be
Less organization, less having to contact the parish priest and go into the church and get permission and everything. I like the idea of an outdoor service.
Mhm. And I think that would be a draw for some people. I mean, that would be the center point of attraction, maybe, to have the mass there at 11 o'clock or noon, and then have the, picnic after that.
well, I think that one thing to keep in mind is that noon or 1 o'clock would be a better time. I don't know if there's certain rules, but the reason is if people are coming from Detroit and there in Saginaw, the amount of time it takes, you're leaving around 8 in the morning, no later than 9 o'clock. So you're going to be on the road and then you're going to return. So I just was trying to, that's why I mentioned around noon. And it'd be a way to rally people so that, they could have kind of a destination with a schedule to get things rolling, if you will.
Right. Well, I did too, Dick. I said noon for mass.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, all I'm saying is that it should be right around there because of the travel too.
Right.
Everybody considering.
Right.
Okay, a thought for somebody that might celebrate mass. I think I saw Monsignor Ed Hankevich's name on
Ah.
the list. So if Monsignor Ed is going to be there, maybe he might be willing to be the celebrant.
Who is that?
Cousin somehow.
Ed Hankevich.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is Dick Host gonna come? Father Dick
I
Host?
doubt it.
Yeah.
Haven't heard from him.
I
There's
talk
not
to
a
Dick
real-
occasionally.
I'm not sure
He's,
there's a good
he's sort of-
place there for mass, frankly. First of all, it's right near the Burton Street, which is pretty busy.
Right.
But there doesn't seem to be a platform, or unless we took over one of the picnic areas and put a table in there or something. I'm not sure mass would really would be
That's what I
advised.
was-
That would be an appropriate setting for a mass. And I don't know how many Catholics we have in the group anymore anyway, so.
That's right. Well,
That's the other thing, yeah. There are some that would not be attracted to that.
That's
But they
right.
could come at 1 o'clock.
I thought just the picnic and the camaraderie and just talking to each other, to me, that's a big enough draw, but if you guys need a little entertainment,
No, true, me too. I agree. Someone brought up the mass idea and I thought I'd throw that out.
well, I was thinking, here was my thinking of making the suggestion, and it may sound obtuse, but I know, and you can identify with your different universities. The University of Michigan has a golf course, and they have a fundraiser for some charity, and they invite the ex-football players. And they all go, think of the concept, they all go and play golf, and then afterwards they have a meal. And I was just thinking that to kind of use that as a kind of an overall framework or format to do something, you know. I don't disagree with you, Peter. I consider, Pete, I considered what you just said of being sensitive to that, but I was just trying to think of,
are we planning to visit Samaritas?
well, you could, I mean, I was just,
I mean, that would be an event if you need something to do, either
yeah.
before or after the meal, to walk over there or drive over there and check it out.
Plus, if we do go to Samaritas, wouldn't we be likely to go in smaller groups? Wouldn't they want us to come and say groups of 4 or 5 rather than 30 people coming at once?
Yeah, but we'd be silent, Frank. We wouldn't be able to talk anyways.
No.
You know, so they wouldn't have to worry about a lot of noise.
I mean, would they be giving a tour? Do they give tours? You know, of course, I don't know if COVID is so far in our past by September.
Let's hope.
Let's hope.
I don't know. I was trying to think of something that.
I remember something being said when Samaritas took it over, and there was a tour before they opened.
A virtual tour, yes.
And yeah, visitor tour. And they said, this is your last opportunity to ever see the place. Something like, it wasn't that bold, but it was something like that. And so if you didn't get a tour, if you didn't go on the tour, then you would never get one.
Well, it's a residence hall for, I guess, 50 different units.
Right.
I think the tour would only be probably through the first floor, through that meeting room, and then maybe through their office space.
Right.
I don't think we would be touring any of the
any
of the people's residences.
Right, of course, yeah, right.
Well, they may have empty residences that if somebody wanted to look at a room, they might do that.
Yeah, that's
because they
true.
still have signs out that say now leasing or for rent. So they may have something available.
Are you thinking of retiring? A place for retirement, huh?
Yeah, like you could, I don't know how they have it set up, but I would imagine you go to somebody's room and they say, yeah, this used to be a dorm and my bed was right here.
I couldn't remember where.
I gotta go to sleep.
I mean, they built new walls and throughout all of the
Change rooms, right?
yeah, second and third floor, all those corrals or whatever we call them.
Right. Well, there are 51 apartments, right?
51. That's right.
I'm curious how they divided that up and made them into 51 apartments.
Well, they're not big apartments, but it's all walls and divided up.
Did they put an elevator in?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
I can't imagine old people going up 4 flights of stairs to an apartment.
No, there's elevators.
There must be.
There always was one in the
Yeah.
section.
tower.
The what?
Yeah, right
There
at
was
the
an
end of Priest
elevator in
Hall.
the tower.
St. Henry's Hall, they had it.
There was no elevator when I was there.
Well,
There was a
in
dumb.
the 60s, there was where those fire towers,
Right.
in the back by the refectory.
Right.
There was an elevator in the one on the east side.
Oh, okay. Okay. There probably was
that's
right from the
right.
beginning. That was off limits when I was a student. So,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
That's right. That's where Paul
Unfortunate story
Greenwald
with
broke in and stole booze out of there. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh, but an unfortunate story. Sister Christopher, I remember used it because I was an infirmarian and she got part of her finger cut off on the door once. So,
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
No, it wasn't that one. I don't
The
think.
pinky. Yeah.
Something. Anyways, I just
So
thought.
I don't know if we're still interested in a food truck or we just bring our own food and not worry about having to guarantee a certain number of people, or do we have to wait until August, our meeting in August, to determine a count and then contact food trucks to give them a firm number on how many might show up? I mean, a food truck would be nice, but I frankly don't need a food truck. I mean, I can bring my own picnic lunch and, food
It'd
isn't
be
a big
simpler to
thing.
do something like just to have somebody cater in a major dish. I mean, one of the restaurants in the areas would probably be simpler than a food truck. Even you pick it up and bring it.
And let me throw this in. When at St. Peter and Paul, they have a caterer they work with. So if you want to, Bill or whoever wants to contact them, Vanovich, is that how you pronounce that name? I said Vanovich, you said it's Vanovich?
Vanovich. Vanovich is the way Americans pronounce it.
The facilities manager is Dennis Vanovich at St. Peter and Paul. So if you contact him, he'll be able to tell you who the caterer is and whether he would be able to do this outside, well, I'm sure he would. He's a caterer. He doesn't just do St. Peter and Paul.
Well, I remember when we used to have get-togethers for the Knights of Columbus, we would order ahead to a place like Kentucky Fried Chicken or something like that and order an equivalent number of meals. And they would have it ready and package it all up in big aluminum tins, and you could order that and mashed potatoes and gravy, a good basic meal. And maybe a couple of other things. And then all you had to do really is just have someone pick it up and just bring it to the area. And then when you were done, you'd either dispose of or recycle the materials that were left over. And that's also a fairly simple, and you're not dealing with the minimum there either. If we only had 25, that's all you had to order for.
All right. Yeah, I've got to get going. Good to be with you tonight, guys. And I'll see you next month, if not before.
Okay.
Good night, Norb.
Yep. Bye.
Maybe we don't have to decide on the food to this meeting, but I think one of the concerns when we first proposed this effort was the fact that if you're feeding yourself from a common, container, that with COVID being such a big problem last winter and early spring, that that wasn't necessarily the best way to gather. But hopefully, as the summer progresses and the number of cases decline, maybe that's not as big a concern. That's why I'm wondering if we should table the food issue for another meeting.
Yeah, I think it's more
Good
important to
idea.
try to get a number
Number.
of participants is our first priority.
I'm still in favor of an outdoor meeting, but it sounds like a few people would prefer maybe an indoor one, like at a church hall or something, but I'm still thinking outdoor, it'd be safer.
Well, the only thing you worry about outdoors is weather.
Yeah,
Is it
you're
gonna
right.
be a nice day or is it gonna be raining?
A rainy day, you're right, you're right.
Thing
That's
is,
a
you have
gamble.
to consider parking and the fact, as I said, it's a school day. And, you're gonna have the students around and you have to, and if we have like 40 cars or something, can the parish or wherever you go take care of all that? I mean, that's part of an issue, I think.
That's a thought.
I mean,
Good point, Dick.
try to, consider all that. What if you think of, one of the things I did think of, since I went by there every day when I was a kid, Aquinas College, they got some land there to do something. Just thinking, I don't know if they would.
Yeah, they'll be in session too. And parking is a premium at Aquinas. That's a huge problem just on a normal day.
What about the Chancery Building Conference Center? Who is our contact down there? Were you involved with that, Tom Dalton?
Yeah, that is rentable. And it's gonna be, I don't know what the rates are now. Chris, lady by the name of Chris Cristano is.
Chris Castano, yeah.
Yeah.
I had her son in school. She's the facilities manager, and she would be able to give you an idea. Again, it's the beginning of the school year, and they may have some conflicts with that space, but they've got a number of good meeting rooms, and they do have gatherings there for outside of the diocese.
One of the things that struck me was, the archives are right there on the same floor, I think, as the conference meeting area. And the old, the windows from the chapel are on display there. Just for me personally, that would be really interesting to see that little bit of the seminary still there. And maybe, again, Jim Blanchard was our main contact with the archives now. I thought, well, maybe they could pull together some of the old records such as they are that would be kind of on display there, or actually to see things. That's just a thought in there. And again, the cost, I have no idea, but obviously they would be, first of all, would be indoors. They're accustomed to having food served there somehow. And I'm just wondering what the overall cost of something like that would be. Just thinking off the top of my head.
Bill, I would be willing to check into the costs with Chris. I'll also get with Jim. Jim and I are good friends, and our classes, we get together actually a couple of times during the year with about 10 of us. But I know that the archives do have things like the old recorders, so there's several issues of those, and a lot of pictures, just a variety of things. And you're right, the chapel stained glass windows are in the center.
Can I ask, where is this located? Is it by St. Andrews somewhere or down there?
Right next
It
door to
is.
St. Andrews.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What, is it?
Right in that square. It's called Cathedral Square.
Wealthy and division.
Well, is Catholic Central have school there?
Yes.
I'm just thinking again of the cars, so I just, and is St. Andrews have a school too?
No, but
there.
St. Andrew's School isn't there any longer.
The high school.
But
the high school is there.
Cathedral Square has a 2-tier parking lot all its own.
Well, not completely because Catholic Central gets to use part of it. The
Could be.
the lower level, I think, is for Cathedral Square. The upper level, 2/3 of it is for Catholic Central, and about 1/3 or 1/4 of it is
Okay.
for Cathedral Square employees.
Hey, here's an idea. I remember I managed to pull this off one time when at the seminary when at that time Father Rose had a visitor who was a bishop in Africa come to spend a little time at in the area. And after he was done celebrating mass, and I was back there, I don't know, maybe Paul was part of that whole thing. I just sort of said to him, "Oh, bishops are allowed to grant free days." And so next thing I know, at the breakfast, he announced, or the rector announced that day would be a free day. So maybe we can get the bishop to do the same thing with with the school there. Give them a free day, and
They'd only be in school for a week.
Yeah. That doesn't work that way anymore.
There is a chapel, of course, at St. Andrews, and I think they have daily mass at noon there.
Yes, they do.
And if someone still wants to go to mass, yeah. Or as a
Yeah,
group.
that's a good
Well,
point.
could you
That's a good
have,
point.
could you have somebody like Terry Stewart or Father Ancona kind of be a sponsor? Would that help us to have a reason, to kind of in quotes legitimize us to be there? Just asking the question. It seems like, or you have Eddie Hedkevich, right? Or maybe Eddie would do it. But I would think that, like having Dennis was a godsend in that sense. And besides, he was interested, but I mean, having him there, and I don't think, or the idea that was proposed, that having former instructors there would be, who's ever still alive, would be a good idea, to be honest with you.
Hey, Bill, is Father Joe Amar on our mailing list?
Doesn't ring a bell with me.
Is he in?
He was in Denny's class, and he's retired now from Notre Dame. He lives in a condo in Grand Rapids, and he helps out mass at our parish often. So, he's got classmates.
Yeah, Joe Amar. He was
Joe Amar.
Thomas. Yeah. He was, but was he? He wasn't a diocesan priest. He was a
Maronite religion Christian.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah, now I kind of remember him. Wasn't he about a year behind us?
Yep.
And then they
piano.
Then he stayed back a year, and he spoke Arabic.
Yeah.
Right.
And he always got into it with the Jews.
But it seems to me that we've got a lot of contacts and who know people or would be especially interested or have some ability to cut through things. So I like Dave's Sipka's idea that he sort of take the point on this. All in favor? You've been elected.
Yeah, all right, yes. I also have a golf outing that same day for a foundation that I'm in charge of. So, yeah. But I can do the footwork to check on the building.
Do you live in Grand Rapids?
He's in Montague.
No,
that's right.
Montague is north of Muskegon.
Right,
we live just up from the lake shore.
Yep. Do you know Dan Tabor?
No.
That rings a bell with me. He was in your
class. Yeah.
He was from Montague. That's why I asked. Is it St. James Montague?
It is. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
Dave, could you also find out about the catering there? What options are as far as catering?
I will. Yeah. I know Dave Faber, who's the superintendent of schools, really well. I was the president of the school board for the Catholic Diocese of Grand Rapids up until a couple of years ago. And Dave brings in food regularly for different gatherings. So I'll check with him. I know that the bishop also brings in different groups. So I'll check with the office and see if they have a suggestion or a couple.
And very good. And get that to Bill Yagerlener then maybe, and he
I
can
will,
disseminate
yeah.
it. Very good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm a little less nervous about that we must be outside. That was one of my original reasons for having a picnic, was the COVID issue, but it seems to be lessening in most places here in the Midwest.
You know, getting back to that, following up a little bit with Frank, Pete, I know where I do event staff work at the university, and we have, like 100 or more people that get food. We get served lunches. And you could get like, I'll give an example, like Panera's, and they will have lunch. They'd have a sandwich and chips and an apple and, a drink. And you'd order them by however, the menu is something like that. And you could have like turkey, ham, beef, tuna, or veggie, so many of each, and then do it that way. It would be a lot simpler than Dave, mentioned that there are people that they work with, and that's how they do it. They just pay them. The Panera's, I'm trying to think of different ones, but Panera's is one I remember we would bring in.
I remember Subway. Subway's another one that.
Subway. If I had a choice, I think I'd do Panera's, but yeah, Subway's another one that would do that. There's got to be somebody around there, and I'm sure down in the area where you're describing, they have to have a couple of go-to people that or groups, catering groups like that would do it.
So I guess
it sounds like we're not going to solve this, except for the date. It sounds like the date hasn't changed. September the 10th still seems reasonable.
Well, Dave can't make it.
Pardon?
It's about the only thing we haven't discussed,
I want to play golf in Dave's outing.
Well, I told you, Pete, have a golf outing and then eat down there. They've already built it in. Just didn't tell us yet.
That's probably up in Montague.
Is it
It's
in
Stonegate, which is a beautiful golf course.
I love Stonegate. I love Stonegate.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
great.
Let's look back at the date. One of the reasons why we wanted it that soon after Labor Day is the weather.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the concerns, that the longer we put it into the month of September, the less likely the weather was going to be cooperating. And I know there's always the risk of, now that we've decided to change the date, that maybe the people attending would change. On the other hand, if we have a venue that the weather doesn't matter, it might be, and the idea of having it indoors might be a selling point in and of itself. And again, I like the idea of having it at the diocesan center there. But I mean, let's look at the date. Is that we still have months out?
Yeah.
And there's plenty of time to alert people, keep them up to date. I mean, I can post another thing. If we come up with another date, we could say, well, we're now looking at September, whatever. What's the thinking of the group?
I think that's
Well, that might be a question that I asked Chris Castano and the folks down at Cathedral Square is, is September 10th a viable date, or is there a better date, to to schedule something like this.
Mhm.
And then maybe we can go from there.
I don't have a problem with that. My thinking is that I would rather not have it on a Friday. Reason is that that's the traffic might be when you're going, you're leaving or
Yeah.
coming would be more intense, assuming the weather's fine. But I don't have a problem with September. And I would say, within a 2-week period of September 10th. So, it puts you out to the 24th, but that's just me, a Friday. I mean, I'll come, but it's not, I would prefer a day other than Friday. That's all.
Is Wednesday a good
Well,
day?
I like that day, Pete.
What day?
Pete.
A Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday would work for me too,
Miraculous.
but not right after Labor Day. How about the next week after the 10th would be
I agree.
better
Mark,
for me.
Frank.
I'm going to stay in a motel or hotel. Anyway, I'm driving from Chicago. It's a 4+ hour drive. I lose an hour because of the time change. So I have to leave at 7 a.m. to get there at noon.
Yeah,
I'm
we're going to
probably
be
gonna-
we're going to be staying overnight there, and since my family's in Muskegon, somehow we're going to work in a trip up to Muskegon as part of the
This effort, yeah.
the whole deal. So I'm open to just about any date that works for the most
The majority,
people.
huh?
Yeah, I'm
I
very
guess I am too.
flexible.
Early September is still not good for me. The 10th would be, or 9th or 10th would be the earliest I could come.
15th is a Wednesday there.
That's a
Yeah,
good-
that would be another good alternative.
Frank, you can stay at my place if you want. I got a bedroom here.
I'll think about it. I'll pay you. Be like a
No, you-
B&B.
No, you don't have to pay me.
I've got a lot of cousins in Grand Rapids, Marfia, a lot of Marfias up that way, but I haven't attended a family Marfia reunion in 4 years, so I'm losing touch with my Michigan cousins. All my siblings, except for one sister in Muskegon, have moved away.
Well, maybe Dave should do his homework first.
Yeah, that's good.
Sure.
Yeah.
Make sure there's some dates that are open somewhere around middle of September, maybe. And tell us what the costs would be and,
Mhm.
and maybe in July, or if we're gonna meet in July, we can kind of firm it up then.
Albert, did you say you'll be in your new house in the next week?
Yes, this week. Be
This
there
week?
Thursday night or Friday.
Oh, you're moving
Water
soon then, huh?
over he's gonna water ski from Chicago.
Moving from Bettendorf to
New
not
Buffalo,
Bettendorf,
New Buffalo, Michigan.
New Buffalo.
One end of Illinois to the other.
Yeah.
Well,
Never in Illinois, huh?
Well, look at it this way. Let me ask Dave, how many people could that center hold? I mean, let me just give you a number, 50?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, easily.
all right, so,
And they have several options. So if it's a smaller group, like 50, there's one room. And if it's more than that, they have a couple of rooms, with folding walls that come
Okay.
down and,
Yeah. If it's a big group, they can handle,
Yeah.
if it's a big group, they can handle 300.
okay, that's great.
yeah.
No problem.
The other advantage of it being indoors, people could bring, if they want to share, I don't know, photos of their family and mementos of the seminary days. I mean, they could bring stuff that could be put on display more easily than if
Yeah.
it were
That's
outdoor.
true.
All the blues have to wear blue and the reds have to wear red.
Okay, okay.
Bring
Blue
along
collar,
your
yeah.
copy of the Book of Rules.
What I
I
was
have that.
thinking is that if you have, how much would it cost a person to attend? For instance, you're gonna have to pay a room fee. And now, I don't know, usually room fees, do you have to pay for cleaning up and the whole deal? And a meal, like you'd have a lunch, so you're gonna.
Dave's
figure
gonna find out. Dave's
Well,
gonna find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm
The
just,
other question
I'm
that
just trying to get a number of what it cost, get an idea of what it'd be costing, that's all.
Yeah. Dick, another question that I'll be asked by Chris Castano is, how long are you looking at? 2 hours, 3 hours?
Right, right. That determines that.
I would say 3 hours would be safer than 2. Because
Yeah, I
people
agree.
want to get, talk and
Yeah.
share stories and move around tables maybe.
12 to 3 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, another really fun part of the last reunion was and again, this deals with the logistics down at the center there, was the gathering of the whole crowd in the gym and having a nice picture taken of everybody there. You know, if there was a spot like that where we might do something, it would be an extra attraction.
Sure.
That was really kind of neat how that all worked out. They had that, I know my wife was taking one set of pictures from the stage looking down into the gym itself. So that was kind of fun. We don't get very many of those pictures of groups anymore. So
And we also need name tags. I mean, I know those of us on Zoom now, I'm getting familiar with people's faces, but still.
Right. As I recall, at the last reunion, people just wrote their own name tags.
The card, yeah.
Right.
But I mean, I'm willing to work on a database that we could. Again, somebody would have to take the point in actually printing them up, or I mean, you know, doing all the merges and stuff like that. But as things proceed, I will make sure that things like phone numbers and email addresses are available for the group to, I mean, whoever is involved in this whole effort is able to get in touch with people. And it also occurred to me that might be really kind of neat as a sort of a takeaway from the event, that we have a list, an actual directory style list of everybody that we've been able to keep in touch with or track down, you know, where they are. I always like knowing what class or they graduated with or the years they attended. I like, of course, being able to reach people by email and phone, things like that. So if that sounds, I mean, I can do it based on the information that I have right now, and just ask people to fill in whatever they want to share in a printed directory. That's another thought in there. Plus, again, I think it's going to take some individual contacts with people to say, well, you know, I'm going to be there. Here's the other people in who are attending. Again, I could prepare and sort of an ongoing list of who's confirmed that they're going to be there, because that, I think, is going to be encouraging other people to, you know, if they know that they recognize a lot of the names there, they're more likely to want to be part of the whole thing. Just a thought.
Well, once we decide on the date and the time and the place, I'll put extra twist the arm of Jim Hannock. He'd have to fly in from Los Angeles, but East Grand Rapids is his home city. He probably has I think he might have a sister still lives there in Grand Rapids. I'm not sure.
Gretchen.
So I'll twist his arm, to try to get Jim to come.
Okay.
Trying to think, seems
I
like
do have to sign off, but I will
Okay.
get information to you, Bill, and you can
Right.
disseminate.
So we want to
even
meet
ahead of the
again
July meeting.
in July. I think I don't have my calendar right here in front of me, but
It sounds like July 4th is on a Sunday.
Okay.
And you said the 5th, and one of your emails might be too close, because they're
Yeah,
probably
I-
celebrating the 4th on that Monday.
Yeah, let's do it to 12th.
Yeah,
let's
let's
go.
do it
The
a little
12th.
later in the month.
Yeah,
Okay,
12.
July 12 at our usual time.
Right.
Yep.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of good ideas that came out of this session. So
I agree.
yeah. And I'll circulate it to the group as I've done in the past.
All right.
Very good.
All right, good enough. Good seeing everybody.
Good.
And
Yeah.
I'll sign everybody out.
All right.
Early tonight, yeah.
Take care.
Good
Take
night.
care, everyone. Good to see you all again.
Yes. Take care.